Hi, my name is Valentino Argudo, and this is my speech of why a universal basic income would be a bad thing in the U.S. economy. Implementing a universal basic income in the United States economy would undermine the economic stability by discouraging workforce participation, increasing inflation, and creating financial burdens that threaten long-term needs. Implementing a universal basic income has gathered some considerable attention. In the 2020 election, Andrew Yang promoted a universal basic income which would give all American citizens $1,000 per month or $12,000 a year to citizens over the age of 18 from the U.S. government. Although this does sound pleasing, it could raise some long-term impacts for the economy. Funding such a program would require enormous government spending. To sustain a UBI of $12,000 per year per citizen, the government would have to allocate trillions of dollars annually, either through increased taxes or borrowing money. Higher taxes could discourage investments and entrepreneurship, oppressing economic expansion and job creation. Andrew Yang wanted to increase taxes by 10%, potentially cover the cost of how much the UBI would spend in over a year. The federal tax was sitting on a flat 21% in the 2020 and would bump up to 31% if Andrew wanted to raise taxes. If Andrew Yang was elected, the amount of money the government would have to spend is $228.3 billion per month and $2,739,300 million in 1 year. Although this doesn't sound like a lot, because the United States has around $138 trillion, but $38 trillion in debt as of May 4th, 2025. If Andrew Yang kept this universal basic income for his 4-year term, each adult citizen in the United States would have accumulated $48,000 if not spent a dime, and the government would have to spend over $10,958,400 million in the 4-year term. In addition, a universal basic income would discourage workspace participation and cause more laziness in the United States. Quote, the danger of a UBI entrenching low pay and precarious work, it could effectively subsidize employers who pay low wages, and by creating a small cushion for workers on short-term and zero-hour contracts. From the Editor's Procon. What this is saying is that the employers would cut down on paychecks since the workers are already getting a set amount of money from the government. So instead of raising wages/paychecks, employers could keep paying low wages because workers have a safety net from the government. Also, for people with short work hours or part-time jobs, a UBI gives them little extra money to help cover expenses when they don't work as much as the average person. This may seem good at first, but could also make it easier for companies to offer unstable jobs because workers don't need to worry as much as losing money. This could make jobs less secure overall, and workers might not push as hard enough for full-time jobs with a better pay. Earned income motivates people to work, be successful, and work cooperatively with colleagues and gain skills. However, quote, if we pay people unconditionally to do nothing, they will do nothing. Said by Charles Y. Lopez, professor of the International Economics at the Graduate Institute in Geneva, from the Editor's Procon. You might be thinking of the Permanent Fund Dividend, or the PFD, where each Alaskan resident gets paid each year from the Alaska Permanent Fund, a state-owned investment fund established from oil revenues. Its purpose is to share the state's mineral wealth with its residents to ensure that both the current and future generations benefit from the state's oil resources. The PFD has a reason why you get paid, and the UBI doesn't. Finally, having a UBI could cause more inflation, making goods and services more expensive. Quote, if every individual is granted an unconditional income from the government, then there is money to be spent. Providing mass amounts of money to virtually every individual in the country translates to a massively expanded money supply. From the CFI team. There's a law about supply and demand that dictates as demand increases for producers, they must increase prices. This is basic income. Inflation. If the UBI ends up with unconditional inflation, the cost of living will continue to grow and grow. That is why it is important for the government to find ways to control inflation. Otherwise, people will not benefit from the UBI, and it will all be for nothing. In conclusion, if we have a UBI in the United States economy, there will be long-term financial burdens, increased overall laziness in America, and could cause more inflation, causing goods and services to cost more. That is it. Thank you all for being here. This was a lovely time. Is there any questions? Do you have any questions? Any questions for moi? Bam, bam, bam. I'll see you on the flip side.